I am joined by Mark Witt from Linx Global. How you doing, man?
How you doing?
Thanks for being here. Ooh, you already have an applause. This is going to go well. So let's talk about Linx Global, what it is and what your role is.
All right, I am an electrical engineering manager at Linx Global. We have an office here in Chicago and one in Dongguan, China.
Okay.
And we do product design and development here in Chicago, and we have manufacturing in China, and as of this summer, we'll be in Chicago too.
Great. And I hear you work with Stanford a lot.
Have worked with Stanford. We have met with Stanford a few times. They have a program called Design for Extreme Affordability, and basically they're designing products for the third world. Baby incubators that in the US might cost $30,000, they design it for me for $400.
Wow, okay.
So we met with one of the professors a few summers ago, and he had quite a few graduate programs that get spawned into companies after their senior team has graduated. And he introduced us to several of their companies that need manufacturing support, mechanical support, electrical support, to kind of take that next step from being under Stanford's wing into a real working company.
That's cool. So it becomes its own entity after that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it spawned a lot of companies.
That's cool. I never even knew that kind of thing happened.
I didn't know either until a few summers ago. I was like, okay.
Well, let's talk about your work with that. And I heard you worked with Africa and helping them.
One of the first projects they introduced us with was a company whose focus is to better help people in third world countries get the proper nutrients.
Okay.
He introduced us to East Africa, where a big portion of their diet is made out of corn flour. Untreated corn flour basically has no nutritional value, and this could make up maybe 80% of their diet.
Wow.
So a lot of this corn flour is milled in small one-room mills across East Africa. We particularly started in Tanzania, and their goal was to set up nutrient-enriched facilities there to start getting nutrient-rich flour, which we have here in the US. Mm-hmm. So I actually took an initial trip out there. I was all over East Africa taking a look at all these mills and what conditions and how we would have to design the product to be installed out there that would have worked for
that must have been overwhelming
years to come. It was interesting to deal with.
Yeah.
I evaluated the electrical grid. I evaluated the grounding systems. I evaluated how hot it got out there, the dust in the air, and it was probably one of my most interesting work trips I've been on. So
how did the progress go from there?
Progress went pretty well. They had an initial prototype that really needed to be redesigned on the mechanical side, on the electrical side. So we took their initial prototype, redesigned it, actually took some cost out of it, and we started setting up preliminary manufacturing at our facility in China.
Okay.
So I put together, here's a picture of the device after we redesigned it.
The Sanku. Am I saying that right?
Yep, Sanku is the name of the company that came directly out of Stanford.
Okay.
Now, what you see here is the green section is the giant mill, is the mill that they pour the corn into that basically pounds the corn into dust.
So you build that right on top of it?
So our device sits right on top.
Ah, okay.
So as you see, it's got a big hopper on the front. So as the corn is poured through, we measure the weight change, we see how much corn is going through, and we kind of auger in the nutrients to make sure we have a proper dosage of nutrient-rich flour. If you get too many nutrients, you get sick. Not enough, it's not doing you any good.
It's so interesting because this is another definition of smart technology. You don't think of, sometimes you think of smart home, consumer products.
Right.
This is being very smart in a place where it already has existing technology, but you're updating it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
Now, where we get into the IoT part of it, part of their business model really started to focus on getting accurate reports of how much corn is milled, how much nutrient used. The method to get all the nutrients, the proper nutrients to all these different mills is a difficult one. Some of the mills took us 4 hours to drive to, and it could be 50 miles away.
Right.
Because the road system there is very poor. Mm-hmm. So what they wanted us to introduce is some way to get constant updates as to how much these mills are using, how much they're processing.
Okay.
So that's where we added the IoT part of it. We did some research. We worked with a few cellular providers. We talked to AT&T and Verizon and Vodafone and a few others to see who would be the best fit that had a network system that we could use in East Africa.
Right.
If you're going to design a product in the US, you probably want to use AT&T and Verizon.
Yep.
But we found that Vodafone they don't have any of their own cellular hardware, but they do have great agreements with all these countries to kind of
Interesting.
hop onto all their systems.
Right. So Vodafone, and I never heard of Vodafone.
I've heard of them, but I didn't realize how big they were and
Right.
what their focus was, where their strong sport was.
It's interesting that those contracts are the most important part of that then.
It was interesting. The more we talked to them, we realized that was the best fit.
Yeah.
And they have a big presence in all over Africa.
What were some other challenges? I'm sure there's so many, and just you've already told me a few of them, but
One of the challenges was this device obviously is going to be installed in these one-room some of them dirt floor flour mills across East Africa. So cost was a huge concern. So talking to some of these companies, getting a cellular device that would work with our equipment at a reasonable price was really challenging. And that's where Vodafone helped us too. They came out with a cellular module that plugs into our system for $35.
wow.
So it was pretty inexpensive. The contract for exporting all this data through their system was relatively cheap, less than $1 a month per unit. So all in all, they were a great partner, and they've actually won a lot of awards for their IoT connected product awards for this system.
Right. Again, this is a beautiful example of IoT not for the sake of IoT, which we've talked about before.
Which we've run into many, many times.
Yeah.
I've developed several products where they wanted internet connection, and we'd say, all right, well, here you are, we're connected, you can do what you want. What do you want to do with it? And they're like, well,
we haven't decided yet.
we don't know.
Yeah, but
And
this
that's
is
where it
like,
stops.
you're looking at the need first, which I think is so much more important.
Right, and this came after we helped them redesign the initial product. They said, you know what, we're having some other issues on the business side, and we need this product to be internet connected.
Right.
And that's when we started doing our research on different ways to connect these devices, and cellular became the obvious choice just because of even the short distance we drove, 4 or 5 hours to drive to one device to drop off flour.
It's so crazy. Yeah. Do we have any more pictures that we can look at?
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
So actually our very first prototypes we helped develop in Africa. It was probably a shipping issue we had with one of our designs, so I actually had to find a way to fix something on the fly. One of the small towns we drove through, I saw a guy who sold drinks, and he's a TV repairman. So
The
we pulled
perfect
over.
combination.
He had the equipment sitting out front, so
wow.
we
Just got in there and did it.
set up a small rental fee with him, and he was my tech assistant for about a half an hour.
That's awesome.
Probably one of the best techs I've ever had. He knew what I needed it before I needed it, and I was like, where'd you come from?
From here, he had
Right.
drinks and he fixed TVs.
But
That's
he had all
incredible.
the equipment, and we fixed a few of this is the initial prototype we took out there for testing. But once we had those fixed, everything seemed to work well after that. We had a few challenges, the heat and the mills, they vibrate like you've never seen to pound up that corn. I mean, it's hard to characterize. It's hard.
And you wouldn't know that until you were there seeing it.
No. So we had to do a lot to try to make sure that our stuff will survive.
Right.
And the unit's been out there for almost 2 years now, and so far so good. We haven't had any major issues.
Cool.
Some of the initial testing I did in the electrical grid out there, I went to some of these mills to see, what was going on with electricity, power dips, power surges, things like that.
I was going to ask you about that. It seems like that is a big issue with power, just not being available for your device.
Yeah, we got pretty lucky for some of the mills. Some were worse than others, but we got through it and took some trial and error, but we found a system that worked well. And the biggest issue was sporadic power surges that you didn't know when they're going to hit.
So how'd you work around that?
We tried a few different power conditioners till we got the right one where it seemed to stop all the issues. So this is just one of the mills I was running some tests while I was out there. But it was an interesting trip. I've been out there twice. This was the very first dosifier being installed in East Africa.
It's a memorable picture, and it's a little smaller than I thought it was. That's actually.
We had to keep it tight. The front of those mills they're only about that big, so we had kind of limited space to put them on there.
Yeah.
So that's Felix. He's originally from the USA, and he took on the project. He actually came along just after it left Standard. He came on, and he's been the main champion ever since. But he's been living in Dar es Salaam, the capital of Tanzania now, for about 5 years.
Okay.
And more power to him because it's not
He's doing
easy
it. Yeah.
living out there. It's going to be a little on the rough side, especially the areas he has to go to. Probably some of the most dangerous roads I've ever been on.
Wow.
The main road that we would use is a blacktop road like you'd have here, but for the heat or it wasn't done properly, it was actually rutted out. So there's giant ruts, people doing 65 miles an hour in big rutted roads.
Wow.
And yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good. So they're operating on their own now, right? Like this is.
After they left Stanford, they got support from USAID. So that's the USAID government program that helps companies and gets established in Africa. So they were sponsored by them for a little while, but now they've been off on their own now for about a year and a half. But this is one of the USAID offices that they were operating out of.
Okay.
So let's see what we got in the next picture. And this is Felix at one of the flour mills, and he's kind of giving a demo and giving a training seminar of how the mills work.
Was that difficult too? Like, was there any sort of like divide and this is how it works, this is how you've been doing it. I don't want to rock the ship, but we're changing it a little bit.
He had some challenge to overcome. First, the trust factor.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, you're not from Africa. Who are you?
Yeah.
What are you selling us? I think
is
it took
this
them a
changing
while.
the process for the better or the worse? And
do we really need this?
Yeah.
What are you selling us?
Right.
So it took him a while to get over that, but
we're on the other side of it though now, right?
Right. Yeah. He's doing really well.
Yeah.
He's got I think over 300 of these mills set up with dosifiers, and he's going to order probably 400 more. So he's doing really well.
Cool.
Yeah.
You said you recently hit a milestone.
This past February 5th, they hit 1 million bags of flour fortified.
Awesome.
And the number of people that affected is more on the 4 to 5 million range. Because what they'll do is they'll bring a bag of corn, they'll bring it to this local mill, and then they'll walk out with a bag of milled corn.
Right.
So it's really local people walking up, getting this corn milled and walking away. So it's
an awesome cause. I mean, you're making healthier people, which is really great.
Yeah, it's some more pictures of some of the different mills we went to, and you can see the Sanku machine set up on the bottom.
Yeah, working right alongside the people who are going to be using it. So
Take a little while to get them trained and understand and how important it is to make sure everything's working right, keep things clean. Oh, just some of the mills around the area in Tanzania. So this is one of the
2
mills.
p.m.
It's he's the 2 p.m. mill. So I had to ask him, why is it the 2 p.m. mill? He goes, well, everybody else delivers at 5 o'clock. I'm at 2 p.m.
Oh, nice.
I'm way ahead of everybody else. I was like, all right.
All right, do your thing.
And this is the owner of the mill.
Cool.
Now, the two girls on either side, they actually work for our USAID. And they were there to kind of check in on Sanku, see how they're doing, how the money's being spent, things like that. So they would come around with us to some of the mills to see, kind of track the progress.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But
I really appreciate the work you're doing. It's amazing. Is there anything else you want to talk about when it comes to Linx Global or kind of the projects you've been working on?
It's been really interesting. We get a wide breadth of projects. We kind of focus more on commercial products, but we're also very into medical. And it's been a good experience. I've been working with Linx now for almost 10 years. And back and forth to China. The China team is great guys to work with, and it's been a great experience.
Yeah, I think it really shines a light on, again, like I said earlier, smart products don't necessarily mean just a little thing that talks to your phone. It could be something that helps millions of people and adheres to an old technology as well and kind of helps it. Yeah.
It's a wide range of IoT connected products. Some are better suited that really need the IoT connection. So this is one of the stories this was probably the best story we've had as far as setting up a product with IoT connection.